This is the daily commute to school for these children. One slip and there is no second chance. But that isn't even the cruelest part. In another part of the world, the ground beneath people's feet has been smoldering for over a century, ready to collapse at any given moment. In other places, families choose to live high above the canopy, suspended on 50-meter treetops, or build their homes on floating reeds in the middle of a deep, endless lake. Why do people continue to live, thrive, and survive in places where the line between life and death is so absurdly thin? The answer lies in our journey through the most dangerous villages on Earth coming up right now. A journey where, the further we go, the more what you see will challenge every ordinary rule of survival. And our first stop will show you just how far human endurance can truly go. They carry no water, no grain. On their heads are baskets of coal dug straight from the ground beneath their feet. A ground that has been smoldering for over a century. This is Jharia, a coal mining town in Jharkhand, India. In 1916, an open-pit coal mine was left improperly sealed after shutting down. Fires broke out underground. Over 100 years later, those flames have never gone out. Beneath the town, more than 70 underground fires burn simultaneously. They don't stay still, they creep, eating deep into the earth until sometimes the ground above simply collapses. About 20 years ago, a single cave-in swallowed 250 households in just 4 hours. Yet this is the daily struggle for survival for countless families in Jharia, digging coal directly from the burning earth and carrying it on their heads to sell at the market. Locals say the floors of their homes stay as hot as 50 to 60 degrees Celsius year-round. Billowing smoke carries sulfur and toxic fumes, the culprit behind alarmingly high rates of skin and respiratory diseases. Since 1996, the government has planned to relocate the entire town. Nearly 30 years have passed. Most of the residents remain, still waiting. So why, amid toxic clouds and fissures that can swallow whole neighborhoods, do people refuse to leave? Perhaps for many families in Jharia, the question isn't should we leave, it's where would we go? No one promises them a new home, and that basket of coal on their heads remains their only source of income. Scientists estimate that if the fires continue at their current pace, with the coal left underground, this inferno could burn for thousands of years to come. If Jharia is where people must coexist with hazards beneath their feet, then on a mountain thousands of miles away, the danger hangs right over their heads, where every child going to school must climb nearly 3,000 steps suspended over a sheer cliff. To reach their homes, locals here must climb nearly 3,000 steps suspended against an 800-meter cliff face, the equivalent of nearly 3 Eiffel Towers stacked on top of each other. This is Atule'er, a cliffside village in Sichuan province, China. For generations, these weren't steel ladders. They were crude bamboo structures, slowly rotting away over time. Children in Atule'er used to climb those very ladders every single day just to get to school. No safety ropes, no handrails, just bare hands clinging to bamboo rungs with a vertical abyss dropping down beneath them. In 2016, photos capturing this harrowing journey went viral across Chinese social media and quickly spread around the globe. Shortly after, the government built over 2,500 steel steps to replace the aging bamboo ladders. Yet even with steel, this remains one of the most perilous school routes on Earth. But sturdier steel doesn't make the cliff any less steep. Because the terrain was far too treacherous for heavy machinery, every single steel pipe, every bag of cement for that staircase, and every daily necessity had to be hauled up on the villagers' own backs, crawling up those thousands of sheer steps for years on end. Years later, even after the government built modern relocation housing at the foot of the mountain for most residents, some still chose to stay behind. Atule'er remains perched precariously in mid-air. The only thing that truly changed over decades is the material of the path people must risk their lives to cross each day. But in another place, people don't need to scale towering cliffs to face the edge of survival. Simply stepping outside their front door is enough. There, the cold is so unforgiving that a phone dies within minutes outdoors, and your breath turns into tiny ice crystals the moment you speak. Have you ever imagined taking a deep breath only to feel your breath freeze instantly, rustling as tiny ice crystals fall to the ground? This is a place where you can't take a sip of water outdoors because it freezes before even touching your lips. And the phone in your pocket goes completely dead less than a minute after stepping outside. Welcome to Oymyakon, a small village nestled deep in Siberia, Russia, the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth, where temperatures once plunged to a record-shattering -71.2 degrees Celsius. In Oymyakon, living is a continuous negotiation with death. What would you do if turning off your car engine for just a few minutes meant the oil inside froze solid, turning it into a useless block of iron until next spring? The locals' solution is simple. They leave their engines running non-stop, month after month. Just like that, the rumble of idling engines becomes the heartbeat of survival across the entire land. Beneath their feet lies permafrost, ground where not a single sprout can push through. No fresh vegetables, no fruits. Their daily diet consists almost entirely of reindeer meat, horse meat, and paper-thin slices of frozen fish. Yet, Oymyakon isn't a makeshift research outpost where scientists visit for a few months and leave. It is home to over 500 people. There is a post office, a general store, and children still strap on their backpacks and head to school every day, unless the temperature dips below -52 degrees Celsius. they don't stay here to prove their bravery. They stay simply because it is where their ancestors chose to settle, and over generations, their bodies have learned to make peace with the cruelty of the ice. But if the cold in Oymyakon comes from the Arctic snow, then, on a mountain thousands of meters high, the challenge to survival comes from thin, suffocating air, where every single breath becomes a battle. Here, people accept working for an entire month without receiving a single penny in wages. This is La Rinconada, a gold mining town sitting at over 5,100 meters above sea level in the Peruvian Andes, the highest permanent human settlement on Earth. Everything operates under an unmerciful compensation system known as cachorio. Miners must labor for around 30 days straight, completely free of charge. Only on the final day of the month are they allowed into the mine to haul out as much ore as they can carry on their backs. Whatever gold is hidden inside that load belongs to them. Some months they walk away empty-handed after hundreds of hours of grueling toil. But other months, a single shift can change their lives forever. Living in La Rinconada is a literal trade-off for survival. At this altitude, the oxygen in the air is cut in half compared to sea level. Even a simple step makes your chest throb with breathlessness. The town has no trees, no running water, no waste management, and no public sanitation. Everywhere you look, there is only freezing rock, ice, and mercury toxins lingering along the paths. Yet, over 50,000 people still crowd into corrugated tin shacks clinging tightly to the mountainside. They don't stay for the scenery or comfort. They endure because they believe this is the one place where they can grasp their dream of turning their lives around. But not everyone gambles their life in search of gold. In other places, people risk survival every single day for a far simpler purpose, just to cross a bridge to get back home. Here, to step outside into the world beyond, locals have only one choice: to set foot on a precarious suspension bridge patched together with rusted steel cables and sparse wooden planks suspended in mid-air. Tens of meters beneath their feet, a raging river surges through the valley. This is home to the communities of the Hunza Valley in the Gilgit-Baltistan region of Pakistan. Completely cut off from the modern world by towering limestone mountains, these villages live in near total isolation. The Husseini Hanging Bridge, which has repeatedly captured international media headlines as the world's most dangerous bridge, was never built for adrenaline-seeking tourists. It is the sole lifeline connecting the villagers to the outside world. Many of the wooden planks have vanished, leaving gaps wide enough for a person to fall through. Yet every single day, school children shoulder their backpacks and step across those swaying wooden rungs to get to school. while adults haul heavy loads on their backs to trade for food on the other side. Many tourists come here merely to test their courage and leave. But for the people who call this valley home, they don't cross the abyss in search of a thrill. They cross it because it is the only path to maintain life and stay connected to the world. And if in the Hunza Valley, people must rely on a structure built by human hands, then in another mountainous region of South Asia, people chose instead to nurture nature itself to weave their own path to survival. In many parts of the world, raging floods and landslides easily wash away reinforced concrete bridges and heavy steel structures. But deep within the jungle of Meghalaya, India, the wettest place on earth, villagers possess living paths of survival that completely defy those rules. These are the villages of the Khasi and Jharia people. To connect isolated communities divided by roaring rivers and deep chasms during months-long monsoon seasons, their ancestors devised an unprecedented solution, guiding and shaping the roots of ancient rubber fig trees, Ficus elastica, growing on opposite banks, weaving them together over decades to form living root bridges. It takes 15 to 20 years of patient coaxing for a root system to intertwine densely enough to bear human weight. Unlike man-made structures that degrade over time, these living root pathways continue to grow, anchoring deeper into the soil and becoming stronger with age. Some of these living bridges have endured for centuries, easily supporting dozens of villagers crossing at once. To tourists, they are magical natural wonders. But to children hauling book bags to school or farmers carrying produce to market every day, these aren't architectural marvels to admire. They are the sole lifelines allowing their villages to endure and survive deep within a relentless tropical rainforest. If the Khasi people of Meghalaya rely on the living strength of the jungle to endure the monsoon floods, then in a snowbound valley in Ladakh, people must wait for an entire river to freeze solid just to gain their only path to the outside world. In winter, when Snowberry's mountain passes thousands of meters high, the Zanskar Valley in Ladakh is completely cut off from the outside world. With no roads, no vehicles, and temperatures plunging to minus 30 degrees Celsius, this place becomes an icy island marooned in the heart of the Himalayas. To avoid being suffocated by isolation, the villagers of Zanskar were forced to find a way out. And that sole path was the frozen Zanskar River, known to the world as the Chadar Ice Trail. This is no smooth pavement. The ice sheet covering the river is thin, fickle, and constantly shifting with the raging currents below. A single moment of carelessness and the collapsing ice will drag both traveler and cargo into the freezing torrents beneath towering limestone cliffs. Despite deadly peril lurking at every step, this was once the entire community's sole lifeline for centuries. School children walked for weeks on end across the ice to to reach boarding school in the town of Leh, while adults carried packs weighing up to 40 kilograms, inching forward step by precarious step to bring medicine and vital supplies back to the village. Today, climate change is making the Chadar ice thinner and more fragile by the year, while a paved mountain road remains unfinished. To adventure trekkers, the Chadar is a majestic, thrilling conquest. But to the people of Zanskar, every step across that frozen river was never a scenic journey. It was a high-stakes gamble with life itself to ensure their village's survival through the brutal winter. Seen from afar, the clay houses and granaries clinging to the sheer cliffs of Bandiagara look like swallows' nests perching on thin air. Beneath them lie vast deserts, blistering sun, and razor-sharp rock formations jutting into the sky. This is home to the Dogon people of Mali, a community that has chosen to live suspended hundreds of meters up a cliffside for centuries. The ancestors of the Dogon didn't choose this treacherous terrain for the view. Centuries ago, to escape slave raiders and invasive wars waged by neighboring tribes, they were forced to retreat up these vertical cliffs, the only place enemies couldn't charge with horses or overwhelm with sheer numbers. Daily life here is a constant defiance of gravity. The Dogon build their homes on narrow ledges, haul water up vertical cliffside paths from the valley below, and lower themselves on ropes to bury their dead in deep caves high on the rock face. Today, those ancient tribal wars are long gone, yet the Dogon still choose to remain on these bone-dry cliffs. They stay not out of ignorance of the world below, but because carved into every cliff are the tombs of their ancestors, their historical memory, and a unique identity they paid for in blood to preserve. But if the Bandiagara cliffs are where people hid to survive, thousands of miles away, bare feet still climb twice the height every day, not to flee, but to find faith. If the Dogon chose the cliffs as a refuge from war, then in the Tigray region of Ethiopia, people scale sheer rock pillars over 200 meters high with their bare hands for a completely different reason: to seek peace of mind. This is home to Abuna, Yemata, one of the most inaccessible places of worship on the planet. To reach this sanctuary, carved directly into the heart of sandstone rock, there are no safety harnesses, no stairs, and no iron handrails. Worshippers must shed their shoes, using bare hands and feet to cling to narrow handholds, crawling across a ledge only a few dozen centimeters wide, with a terrifying abyss dropping straight down right behind their backs. What leaves people utterly stunned is that this perilous journey isn't reserved for professional rock climbers. For hundreds of years, elderly people with walking sticks, pregnant women, and mothers clutching newborns have regularly made the weekly climb up this cliff face for child baptisms or Sunday service. Locals believe that over centuries of pilgrimage, thanks to divine protection, not a single person has ever fallen into the abyss. They don't conquer this vertical cliff for adrenaline thrills or to prove their recklessness. To them, every step gripping the rock face is a prayer, a place where the boundaries between life, death, and faith are blurred into one. If faith helps the people of Abuna, Yemata stand firm on a deadly cliff face, then elsewhere humanity survives through extraordinary ingenuity, suspended over raging waves or precariously balanced beneath the clouds. Seen from above, the Golden Islands, floating gently on the surface of Lake Titicaca, look like a tranquil scene straight out of a fairy tale. But at over 3,800 meters above sea level, where the air is thin, oxygen levels drop drastically, and biting cold grips the air as night falls. This is one of the most eccentric and precarious survival feats on the planet. This is home to the Uros people. Centuries ago, to evade the brutal persecution and invasions of the Inca Empire, they made a daring decision to survive, abandoning solid ground entirely to move their families out onto the open lake water. The entire village, from the ground beneath their feet and the domed huts to the boats they navigate in, is hand-woven entirely from the roots and stalks of totora reeds, a plant indigenous to the lakebed. Underneath the villages is no sturdy soil, but a floating layer of vegetation about 2 meters thick, constantly bouncing and swaying with every wave. Yet the true peril of this drifting life lies in the ruthless passage of time. The bottom layer of totora, reed submerged in the water, continuously rots and decomposes. To prevent the islands from sinking into the deep lakebed, every single week, villagers must haul dry new bundles of reeds to layer over the surface for reinforcement. Every step here feels like a leap into uncertainty, where a mere spark accidentally ignited from a cooking stove, or a fierce storm snapping the stone anchors holding the island, could burn the entire village to ashes, or sweep it out into the vast open waters in the dead of night, before anyone could come to the rescue. In contrast to the Uros drift across the waves, in another remote valley, people seek safety perched high within the precarious forest canopy. Deep in the rainforest valleys of West Papua, the Korowai tribe has chosen a lifestyle that defies all laws of gravity. Instead of building on the ground, they construct their homes atop ancient tree canopies, 35 to 50 meters in the air, equivalent to a 12-story apartment building in the heart of the jungle. For generations, shifting life to these dizzying heights was their only way to survive devastating flash floods after heavy rains, protect themselves from wild beasts, escape deadly disease carrying insects on the forest floor, and avoid surprise raids by hostile tribes. Yet the price for safety from nature is a life constantly playing with fire. To go up and down every day, everyone, from elderly people with walking sticks and pregnant women to toddlers just learning to walk, must scramble up a single ladder, a solitary tree trunk carved with shallow notches, swaying in every gust of jungle wind without a single safety rope or handrail. Every trip to work, every haul of water or farm produced back home is a true high-stakes climb. A single slip on slick bark or a snapped branch means a freefall straight down to the hard jungle floor below. Yet, amid the perils of the wilderness, that precarious space suspended high above remains the only place where they find peace to live. If the Korowai challenge the heights of the jungle canopy, then, at our final stop, people entrust their lives to wooden stilt houses that shapeshift with every passing season. Kampong Phluk, nestled on the vast Tonle Sap Lake in Cambodia, witnesses some of the most drastic and unpredictable water level fluctuations in Southeast Asia. Villagers here cannot construct sturdy concrete homes or lay deep foundations into the earth. Instead, they build their entire village atop towering wooden stilts, standing 10 to 12 meters high. During the dry season, Kampong Phluk appears like a surreal city in the sky. Locals walk beneath cavernous hollows under their floorboards, where bare wooden stilts plunge into the dry, cracked earth. But when the monsoon arrives, the waters of Tonle Sap surge by more than 10 meters, completely swallowing the void below and transforming Kampong Phluk into a true floating village, where churning waters rest just centimeters beneath the floorboard. The danger lurking here comes not from height or fire, but from the silent erosion of time itself. The wooden stilts bearing the entire weight of each house are constantly submerged in deep water, then baked under stifling heat year after year, leaving them vulnerable to rot and termite decay from within. During monsoon storms, as torrential currents relentlessly beat against the wooden stilts, a single main support beam snapping is all it takes for an entire home to collapse into the violent waters in the blink of an eye, dragging an entire family's life down into the ruthless lake. Underground fires that never sleep, roads suspended over sheer abysses, or wooden swallow nests perching high against the sky. From the outside, it seems like madness, dangerous boundaries that none of us would ever dare to cross. But for the people who live here, it isn't a gamble for thrills. It is simply life. Despite the brutal terrain, despite the deadly hazards lurking at every turn, humanity will always find a way to endure, adapt, and sink their roots into the very soil they call home. Human resilience, as it turns out, truly knows no bounds. If it were you would, you have the courage to live even a single day in places like these? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to continue this journey exploring the most extraordinary and unforgiving lands on Earth, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss our next stories. Until next time, goodbye and take care.